Zelenskyy reveals topics discussed with Macron and Starmer as part of coalition of the willing. Ukraine confirms strike on Russian Bolkhov plant, what we know so far, and how Trump refuses to support sanctions on Russia seeking business deals with Putin. The latest news next. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy had separate telephone conversations with French President Emmanuel Macron and UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on the 20th of May, during which they discussed diplomatic efforts and further actions within the coalition of the willing, reported by Zelenskyy on social media. Zelenskyy noted that he had thanked Starmer for the new UK sanctions against Russia imposed on the same day as the European sanctions and said that it would be good if the United States also helped. The president added that he and Starmer had discussed the details of diplomatic efforts and potential meetings that could really ensure a ceasefire and progress toward lasting peace. They also discussed the conversation with US President Donald Trump, which took place on Monday, the 19th of May, after Trump's phone call with Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin. We also discussed our joint actions within the coalition of the willing. We agreed to stay in close contact nearly on a daily basis, Zelenskyy tweeted. Regarding his conversation with Macron, Zelenskyy noted that it was very substantive.
We continue preparing decisions within the coalition of the willing. Everything is becoming more practical. We discussed support for our army, defense cooperation, and our domestic weapons production in Ukraine. Of course, we also had an in-depth discussion about relations and coordination with the United States.
Russia claims that dictator Vladimir Putin has traveled to the Kursk region, allegedly visiting Kursk, which lies less than 100 kilometers from the Ukrainian border, the Kremlin's official website reports. The exact date of the working visit was not specified, only that it took place the day before. The Kremlin stated that Putin met with volunteers and the acting governor of the Kursk region, Alexander Hinstein. Russians also informed that the president was allegedly in the city of Kursk, where he visited the under-construction Kursk nuclear power plant. In reality, neither the Kremlin nor Russian media provided concrete evidence of Putin's visit to the Kursk region. The Kremlin's website published a photo of the Russian dictator at a white table with cups and candy. Propagandist Pavel Zarubin showed footage allegedly depicting Putin at Kursk NPP 2nd, but the exact date of the footage remains unclear. For reference, Kursk is the third largest city in the Kursk region and is home to the Kursk nuclear power plant. It is located about 80 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops continue to hold positions within the Kursk region despite Russian claims of liberating the area. Not worried about war. Meanwhile, Ukrainian troops continue to hold positions within the Kursk region, despite Russian claims of liberating the area. As noted by Ukrainian Center for Counter and Disinformation, Russian propaganda outlets are actively spreading news about Putin's visit to Kursk, placing emphasis on a civil agenda, a meeting with volunteers, demining issues, refugees, and a visit to the Kursk nuclear power plant. The center stresses that the avoidance of references to the war and the focus on supposedly peaceful life is a Kremlin information tactic aimed at creating the illusion of stability and full control.
With such staged calm, the Kremlin seeks to conceal the real situation on the border with Ukraine. These types of visits are also used by the Kremlin as a PR tool to talk over losses and failures at the front.
The unmanned systems forces of the Armed Forces of Ukraine and other units of the defense forces successfully struck the Bolkhov semiconductor plant in Russia's Oryol region, informs the General Staff of the AFU. What do we know about the plant? According to the General Staff, the Bolkhov plant is a leading enterprise of the terrorist state in the field of development and production of semiconductor devices and components. The plant's main areas of production include semiconductor devices, microelectronics, power electronics, diodes and diode assemblies, microchips for pulse power supplies, optoelectronic switches, server drives. The plant supplies its products to at least 19 enterprises of Russia's military-industrial complex, which are involved in the production of Sukhoi aircraft, Iskander and Kinzhal missiles. Despite sanctions, the plant produces nearly 3 million devices annually and employs about 700 people. The target area was confirmed to have been reached by 10 UAVs. A fire was recorded. Detailed information on the consequences of the strike is being clarified, the General Staff added. US President Donald Trump has refused to join the European Union's sanctions pressure on Russia after conversation with Russian dictator Vladimir Putin. Instead, he has expressed an intention to focus on economic cooperation with Moscow, which could lead to a rift within NATO, something Putin has been seeking to create for more than 2 decades, reported by the New York Times. According to the New York Times, Trump told Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and European leaders that Russia and Ukraine should find a solution to the war on their own. This happened just days after he claimed that only he and Putin had the authority to make a deal. According to 6 officials familiar with the discussion, Trump has also backed away from earlier threats to join European sanctions against Russia.
Their account sheds light on Mr. Trump's decision to throw up his hands when it comes to a peace process that he had previously promised to resolve in just 24 hours. And, unless he again reverses course, Monday's developments left Mr. Putin with exactly what he wanted. Not only an end to American pressure, but the creation of a deep fissure inside the North Atlantic Treaty Organization between the Americans and their traditional European allies, who say they are going ahead with sanctions anyway.
For many, this shift was expected. First came a highly charged meeting with Zelenskyy in the Oval Office, followed by the resignation of the US ambassador to Kyiv. The policy since the beginning of the Trump administration has been to put pressure on the victim, Ukraine, rather than the aggressor, Russia, wrote former US ambassador to Ukraine Bridget Brink. A White House official told the New York Times that new sanctions against Russia could harm business interests, whereas Trump wants to maximize economic opportunities for Americans.
Several European officials said the message they took from the call was that they should not expect the United States to join them anytime soon in piling additional financial pressure onto Mr. Putin. For Mr. Trump, that is a reversal. In social media posts in recent months, he episodically threatened tariffs and sanctions against Russia if it refused to join Ukraine in declaring a 30-day unconditional ceasefire. But after Mr. Trump's call with Mr. Putin on Monday, those commitments evaporated. The American president declined, both in public and in his call with the European leaders, to follow up on that threat.
Trump, who during the election campaign insisted he could establish peace between Russia and Ukraine within 24 hours, later acknowledged that it was much more difficult than he had expected. Frustrated by the slow progress in Putin's intransigence, he began to talk about the possibility of the US withdrawing from the talks. Trump made it clear in his social media post on Monday that he wished to distance himself from peace talks and move towards making business deals with Russia. The conditions for that ending the war will be negotiated between the two parties, as it can only be because they know details of a negotiation that nobody else would be aware of, he wrote. He then hinted that his real goal is the normalization of relations between Washington and Moscow. There is a tremendous opportunity for Russia to create massive amounts of jobs and wealth. Its potential is unlimited, Trump added. It is currently unclear what exactly the normalization of relations would look like, but Trump seeks to open access for American companies to the Russian energy sector and rare earth metals market.
Mr. Putin seems to understand Mr. Trump's eagerness for commerce and has steered much of their conversations toward the potential economic relationship, according to people briefed on their phone calls on Monday and earlier this year. As a result, Europe is now moving toward new sanctions, and the United States appears poised to move in the opposite direction, looking to get past Ukraine and nurture a larger relationship with Russia. It's exactly the kind of split inside NATO that Mr. Putin has been looking to create and exploit for 2 decades.
That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.